AI has never been more prevalent than it is right now. While many attitudes range from confused to downright terrified, the truth is AI has been supporting us in our work and personal lives longer than you may have realized. Now that it's more accessible than ever, embracing AI intelligently can help us become happier and more focused on what's truly meaningful. Today, we'll learn how future proofing your skills with AI can help you succeed, stay ahead of your competition, and help you become ridiculously efficient. Welcome to the Women's Leadership Today podcast, a feature of Women's Leadership Today. I'm your host, Nikolette. Today I'm speaking with Marissa Brassfield, a highly sought after AI advisor, efficiency coach, and work life balance specialist who has trained hundreds of leaders and visionary entrepreneurs in over 13 countries. Marissa is ridiculously efficient, founding a company by the same name and sentiment. She is renowned for her ability to help professionals through significant life changes, embrace their strengths, and build bigger, better, and more efficient work life integration for themselves and everyone around them. Welcome, Marisa.
Hello, it's so great to be with you, Nicolette. I'm so excited for today's conversation. Thank you for having me.
So am I. I mean, for our listeners, listen, guys, we literally just had like a 20-minute conversation before this, and we were like, we have to stop. We're going to get all the good stuff out before we even get on here. So I am so pumped to get into this. Let's get started by getting to know a little bit more about you and your experience. Tell us a bit about how you became so ridiculously efficient.
Yes, so for the last 15 years or so, I've been orbiting around visionary entrepreneurs and really helping them operationalize their big ideas and turning them into sustainable, high performance teams and profitable business units. So, all of that started in my early career as a journalist, where I graduated with an with a journalism degree from the University of Pennsylvania. At that time, it was creative writing. So then started blogging and very quickly discovered that the more articles that I published, the more money I would make. So then I was like, okay, how can I reverse engineer my own practices so that I'm able to publish as many articles as I can for as many different types of audiences as possible? And this was how I got through the 2008 recession, was by diversifying my client base and ultimately publishing 15,000 articles in 3 years, the old
Oh my
fashioned
gosh.
way. Like, this is not even an impressive stat now within the age of AI, but back in the day, that was a huge, huge accomplishment, many different books. And then, of course, along the way, I've ghostwritten a couple of best selling books for top leaders and edited a ton of articles, probably over 250,000 articles at this point. So lots of editorial background, but also business building, operations, marketing. I'm a passionate generalist when it comes to people facing roles. So operations, marketing, executive support, all the above.
So you've just dabbled in a little bit of everything, right? No big deal.
It's fascinating because, of course, throughout the years, you're told, well, focus on one thing. And I was like, no, I don't want to. Focus is for other people. I'm just driven by the things I'm excited about. And there are so many different ways to express ourselves professionally and as leaders. So why not?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're entering the age of creativity, don't you think?
I know it. And now more than ever, our ability to be creative and innovative and find new ways to put old things together to solve age old problems in new ways, like all of these things, relationship building, there are all of these elements that are now really critical for today's leaders that are not necessarily based on. Recalling facts or being able to follow specific processes from step A to step Z.
Let's dive a little deeper into the rise of AI, right? Um, some have completely embraced this new accessibility, while others have been really indifferent or even afraid of AI. Do you think there's any reason to fear AI?
Well, put it this way, there's a non-zero probability that some of the doomsday scenarios eventually play out, that other people talk about, where AI gets sentient and all the sci-fi movies come true. Non-zero probability, and there's also a non-zero probability that we figure out how to work with AI in a way that supports humans and supports the earth. Um, and right now, we're kind of in this no man's land where anything is possible. So it's interesting because I spent 8.5 years working with Peter Diamandis here in Los Angeles. We built an organization called Abundance 360, which is still around today. It was acquired by Singularity University in 2018. And it was all about teaching entrepreneurs about exponential technologies like artificial intelligence, but also robotics and VR, AR, sensors and networks, all these different technologies. And basically, here's how they're developing, here's why they matter for you as a business owner, and how they might impact your industry, the way that you do business, and even your professional impact or your personal impact.
Hmm.
And I remember when we started this organization back in 2012, and Singularity University has been around since 2008. And Ray Kurzweil and Peter Diamandis co-founded it. And I learned through them so much about where technology today had its origins. And, ChatGPT and large language models are one portion of a much larger field. So it's interesting because back in that time, the conversation was around how IBM Watson was outperforming the Jeopardy winners at the game of Jeopardy, and just the ability to recall different facts and nuance. And it was kind of this separated from the everyday person. Although now everyone can use AI, it's in our phones, it's available on every browser. Many of these great tools are free. So it is a completely different world now. And the way that we interact with AI, most of us, is through large language models and kind of this conversational interface. But there are lots of other ways that AI has been used in medical fields, for example, to mine all of the possible research studies or different parts of the genome or drug interactions. So there's really interesting applications for AI that make me hopeful about its use and its safe and responsible use, while also acknowledging that, sure, with these technologies that are available to anyone around the world, there's a non-zero probability that someone with bad intent will get a hold of them and use them to spread misinformation, disinformation. I just spoke in front of some leaders 2 weeks ago about deepfakes and synthetic voices, and how those can be used to, for example, you receive a call in the middle of the night and it sure sounds like a family member, and they're in trouble and they need some money, and it's a lot of money. And this is not theoretical. This happened in August 2023.
Yeah.
Happened last year several times, where people were scammed out of significant amounts of money because they didn't have these protocols in place. So in that meeting, I'm going, okay, what are your safe words in your family, where if you get a phone call, what is that one word that, or one question that you can share, so that the other person on the end of the line knows this really and truly is you?
We just have to find ways to implement those safety measures. I now I'm really not afraid of AI at all. I am, like, so impressed by any kind of technology, that I'm just like, "Magic, it's magic, I wanna use it." Um, but a lot of people are really uncertain about it, right? And there is this kind of fear, and it might be because, like you were saying, right, AI's been around for a long time. It's been doing things in the background for a really long time. When we were speaking, during the planning session, you had even said, "Spell check is AI," right? We How long have we been using spell check? So really, it hasn't come out of nowhere, but it feels like it came out of nowhere. Like, from the minute I heard that ChatGPT was going to be a thing that you could use, to the moment when everybody was using ChatGPT, it felt like a blip in time, like I almost got left behind. Why do you think that is?
Oh my goodness. Well, anything that is on that exponential growth curve. So, Peter talks about the 6 Ds of exponentials, and there's this moment where a technology goes from deceptive growth to disruptive growth. Deceptive is like the early doublings, where it's just kind of under the radar, but then all of a sudden disruptive. And that's what we had with ChatGPT. in modern history, there has not been a technology that has been adopted faster by more users than
Mm.
ChatGPT was when it was released in November 2022.
Oh,
So
wow.
we have never had, faster than Google, faster than all Facebook, all of these top tools that we're using every day, faster than all of those things. So we just haven't had experience with anything that has moved that fast from a consumer adoption standpoint. Now, the other thing is, I think ChatGPT has exposed the fact that a lot of the work we do today really isn't all that special. There's these moments in our day that are very high value. They're I think about really critical conversations that a founder might have with an investor or with their team, or there's these moments, and then there's everything else. Not every
Mhm.
meeting is created equal, not every email is created equal. So I share your optimism and excitement because I see, and I'm always looking for the advantage that I get when I adopt a technology. And in the case of ChatGPT and large language models, I mean, these tools have transformed my life. If I think about my life 3 years ago,
Mhm.
I was working 6 days a week and pretty long hours, and doing a lot of manual. I was the voice behind a lot of people's written communication, and so that required so much processing and being able to step into different personas and think like
Yeah.
them so that I could create brand representative messaging. And now it's a prompt away, all of the same. We were talking just before we recorded, but all of the same avatar discovery that I would do manually, and I would read it and kind of get into state and then write. I can just load that document up into Claude by Anthropic and start prompting. I can load up my whole content strategy in there and go, okay, pick up from where we left off. And in the case of Claude and Anthropic, that larger context window means that I can generate about, um, I mean, hundreds of pages of content before it forgets what it's doing. So for me, that has revolutionized. And then, the end of that is I'm always looking for accelerators for myself and ways to partner with AI, which I did at the start of 2023. And for me, I cut my 6-day work week down to 3.5 days.
Oh my gosh.
But what that means is Monday and Friday are optional. And so I have like a half day assigned to, like, sometimes it's a family admin day and I'm doing kind of the personal stuff around the house. Sometimes it's recording interviews and podcasts and things that I'm looking forward to doing, but that don't fit into a normal workday. It just gives me so much openness and freedom. And by the way, I now have, there's so many different appointments that only happen during business hours, like health appointments. And so now I get to do that stuff, as well as we're both mothers. And so my little guy's in preschool. So we walk him to school and walk back from school together. So there's all these little things that I now have time for that I would have never had the time to even consider. And like we had a moment last week where he had a fall assembly, my son, and it was really important for me to go because my mom could never go to my stuff that happened during the school day. And it was a really, really cool moment to sit there and go, okay, I did it. I'm here.
Can you describe, or maybe can you explain the difference in the mental load? Because I imagine trying to be all those different personas, and having all of that work on your plate, working 6 days a week. What did that feel like compared to, like, give us a little metaphor of like what it feels like now that you've embraced AI and kind of used it to your advantage?
Oh gosh. Okay. So like in the dark days, the before times, that's
The
what I call
before
them. In
times.
the in the in the before times, work began when I woke up, 5:30, 6 o'clock. My life fit in the blanks in between, the 5 minutes between meetings. I would, this might be TMI, but like I would get UTIs because I would not have time for bathroom breaks. I
Oh
would,
my gosh.
my biology came last. Hydration was a big issue. I wouldn't eat. So there's all these things where I was chronically scheduled. Like if you looked at my calendar, it was just 15 and 30-minute blocks all day long. And by the end of the day, I was exhausted, spent, decision fatigue by noon, cranky by 3, and that really affected my husband and I have been married now 15 years, together for 16, and he came last. He always came last. He got the leftovers, and he it had even gotten to the point where I've worked from home since 2007, so he just kind of like got used to it, and he knew that if there was a quiet moment between calls, that was his time, but he had 30 seconds to give me
Oh
the
my
briefing
gosh.
on whatever we had to do. I mean, it's just so tight.
Yeah.
And so there's all these little trade-offs that we make. And then the other thing, I got really good. High performance. And the thing about high performance is it's an addiction in itself. You get addicted to the accolades, the the praise, the new opportunities you get from people, the place that people hold you in. So I was in environments that constantly enabled me to overextend myself. And in 2019, I had a moment where I was like, I feel like my soul is dying, and I shut everything down. I offboarded every client. I took 2.5 months off, and then I got pregnant, and that was a big moment because it was like, oh, like there were some really severe impacts of stress on my body.
Yeah.
And I remember we were taking a road trip, and I took a really big, expansive breath. Whoa, that feels so good. Let me do that again. And I took another one. And it was that moment that I realized, oh, my neck and my chest weren't tight. That's why that breath felt so good.
Wow.
And I realized how I had been shallow breathing. A lot of that email apnea is what it's called, but a lot of us, when we're reading our emails or checking out text on a screen, we breathe shallowly and we don't expand our diaphragm. So less oxygen goes through your body.
I didn't even know that.
Anyway, uh, we all had a bit of a reckoning in 2020, and mine
Yeah.
included giving birth. And I had my baby was in the NICU for 3 weeks, so we were traveling back and forth, and all of that. And then raising him really made me look at myself and what I was doing and what I wanted him to experience of me and mommy working, and how it felt when I was doing these all day strategy sessions and pumping with the camera off and saying, okay, nope, nope, I'll be with you guys in a little while. Like that stopped feeling good really soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then so when ChatGPT came out, because I had been looking for this interface moment, that was another Peter uh, theme that I learned in my time working with him. And basically, an interface moment is when someone builds on top of a technology in a way that lets other people make money. So, an example in the early days of the internet is when Mark Andreessen created the Mosaic web browser, which allowed anyone to make a website. And if you can make a website, you can make an e-commerce site and you can sell your products and services. So then we saw this explosion of websites. So I've been looking at, okay, when does AI get easy enough for anyone to use and anyone to monetize? That moment happened in November 2022 when we started to be able to interact with AI in a way that you could prompt yourself a book or a landing page or a script, or and all of the different ways that people are using AI now to make money. Just saw that going, and I'm like, okay, this is my chance to really radically create a new relationship with time, and one that supports my values, that supports my nervous system, my peace, and my ease. So the first 3 months of 2023, I went all in to adapt personally from human only workflows, which is how I had been operating for most of my life,
Right.
to AI first workflows, where I get an idea, I develop the idea with AI, I figure out the parts that are hard, annoying, lame, frustrating, slow for me to do, and I start prompting or interacting with an AI tool in a way that makes it fast and easy for me to have something to react to. And then we just build and build and build.
Right. Right.
So there's all these ways that I've started to learn with to partner with AI, and I tell people it's like look for low risk ways. I'm not
Mhm.
like fully outsourcing my critical thinking or having it fully represent me in places. But if you have these low risk ways to free up time, you can pretty dramatically just shift your work life alignment. And the way that I teach people to do it is like, we're just looking for 1 hour a day. Because if you can free up 1 hour a day, that's 250 hours a year. That is a
Yeah.
lot of time.
Oh my gosh. You know what? You don't even think about it like that, right? How every little thing adds up. And I'm sure that, I mean, AI saved you 2 work days a week, right? So it can become a lot more than an hour. But let's start with just that hour, right? What are a couple of tips? Now, I will preface by saying that Marissa is going to be doing a workshop for us specifically on time management and AI, which I am there, right? I'm so excited for. So don't give us too much, right? Because we want to really, really go into it during the workshop. But give us like an overview. How can AI technology help us now in our careers and kind of lift that burden for us as well?
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So I'll go conceptual and then I'll go tactical.
Sounds good.
So, conceptual, I want to have everyone listening, and you, Nicolette, especially, really take a look and audit your workday and just reflect. You can look at your calendar while you do this. And of all the things that you do in a day, what are the things that are effortless and easeful, where you find flow, where you have the most fun? And typically, these are energizing activities, energizing kinds of meetings and relationships. And this is going to be different from for everyone listening. Some people get energized by that focus time where they're able to really uh, focus on a single thing or write. Some people are energized by conversations and being in this like recording environment like I am. And and so there's like, just auditing, like, does this give me energy? Does this take it away? And
Mhm.
you'll come up with a list of activities, or the activities that drain your energy. This is where I might take a look at where different technology tools can accelerate your game. So, a simple example of this, so every workplace software from Microsoft Office, Google Workspace, they're all getting generative AI. So,
Mhm.
there's already easy ways for you to start experimenting in low risk ways. But a simple example of this is email. Now, leaders I work with get between, dozens to hundreds of emails that they need to respond to every day.
I don't know anyone who's energized by checking your email, right?
Well, so it's interesting because you can flip it. So, there's all these ones where they're like, some of them require you to stop and think and process and reflect. And what I've started to do, so I use Superhuman for my email. I just love the keyboard shortcuts. It's a paid tool. It's totally not necessary, but I'll give that example because there's an AI drafting tool in Gmail. It's called Help Me Write. Microsoft Office has a co-pilot that does the same thing. So these tools are now everywhere. But I'll
Yeah.
just use Superhuman because that's the one that I'm using, and I'll reply to the email, and all you have to do is just list out the raw, rough bullet points, not even full sentences, just like rough phrases. And then it drafts the email, and you can go lengthen, simplify, improve my writing. And there's all these things you can do. And then there's like the fully fledged email where it's like,
Oh
I
my
hope this
gosh.
email finds you well. I wanted to follow up. Please let me know. And it's like, I laugh because I was the person who would agonize over every single one of those words and the order and the sequence. But I find that these are pretty good.
Yeah.
There are many, great requests that I get, or like I'll do an interview, or I'll do a workshop with a client, and I want to have a testimonial afterward. The fastest and easiest way to do this is you draft the testimonial yourself and you say, will you approve and personalize this testimonial? What I did at my last workshop is I exported the transcript, because I'm running Otter to get a real-time transcription. I export it, and I prompted, in this case, Claude. I was like, can you give me three testimonial drafts for this person to approve? Here's the decision maker. Here are the elements of my leadership that I want to emphasize. And then it came back, and then I had it prompt the email, the wrapping email around it. Like, take a look at these drafts. I don't know. And then I copied and pasted the whole thing. And this is one of those things that would have taken me 20 minutes, if not more. And it came down to 2 minutes or less. And this kind of unfair advantage, and it feels like an unfair advantage.
Can I just touch on this?
Yes, please.
So I 100%, I didn't know how to put it into words, but what you just said completely touches on my only hesitation with AI, right? Because when I use AI, especially for like image generation, because I have all these ideas in my head, but I'm not like, I'm a big idea girl, right? So I'm not like a nitty gritty girl. So when I go to AI, and I've been playing around a lot, especially in the last month, and I go to AI and I say, "This is what I'm thinking, AI. Can you put this together to me for me?" And it brings me, like you said, a perfect draft. It's like all I have to do is just change a couple of words here and there, and I do get back that hour in my day. And I go, "Ooh, am I cheating?"
So I'm like, why do you have that guilt, girl? But
Seriously.
I say that because when I'm working with high performers, especially, and it's like, okay, it's Tuesday at 2 o'clock. You finished all the things that you said were most important for you to do that day. You've made the list of things that you need to do the rest of the week. You've organized, you're at inbox zero, like you're done, girl. What are you going to do? And I'm like, you're going to take a long walk. Are you going to do that hike that you've been wanting to do? Are you going to take that long, luxurious workout? Or are you going to go to the spa? Like, what are and there's real guilt. There's true guilt about stepping away and not being
Yes.
immediately responsive. And so there's so much unlearning that we have to do. And I believe it's critical because for me, and for a lot of people I know, our best ideas don't happen while we're sitting and doing email. Our best ideas might happen, for me, it's like folding laundry or when I'm in the shower or when I'm doing the dishwasher.
100% agree.
So, why wouldn't I, as a leader, make more time for that, knowing that my best and biggest thinking is going to come from those activities? So then it becomes how effective and efficient can I make my computer time? This is where I got the 3.5 day work week.
Yeah.
How effective and efficient can I make my time here so that I feel like I've crushed it and everything else is bonus territory? So much of what we do as leaders is about confidence and mindset. And just flipping that for me has been because I'll walk away and I'm like, ooh, should I be doing something right now? And the reality is, I'll go through and I'm like, okay, I did the things that were most important. Of course, I'm never going to finish my to do list, whether I go back in on the computer for another hour or another day. Like, I'm not going to finish it. There's so much stuff to do. So, knowing that, why don't I focus on the most important things that are urgent and important right now? So, the Eisenhower Matrix is another tool that I use to kind of simplify what actually has to be worked on right now versus anything else. And then just be good with having that time back because that was my ultimate goal in the first place.
I think now I really hate to generalize, but I'm going to generalize just a little bit. I think that women struggle a lot with having time on their hands. Like I said, don't want to generalize. There's plenty of people out there who are good at it, but I know between my male and women colleagues, whenever women have time where nothing is going on, it's like, I should be doing something. I should be doing something. I feel it especially and I feel it especially now that I am a mother, right? Anytime that I have 10 minutes, I'm like, should I be doing something with my daughter? Should I be getting some work done so that I have time later? Like how let's let's jump into a little bit. How did you overcome that guilt, right? How did you get to a place where you were like, "No, this is my time and I'm going to claim it."
Whew. Practice, uh,
Practice.
therapy. So, I mean,
Number one tip.
the reality is, you can't pour from an empty cup. And depending on what your spiritual beliefs are, this may be the only shot we get at this. So
Mhm.
I kept reminding myself there will never be another today. My son will never be this age again.
Yeah.
We will never be in this season of our lives together again. And sure, we have there's a delicate balance between like having that cause some guilt. But I always try and use it as a motivator. But then, my ultimate goal with Ridiculously Efficient, since I founded the company in 2011, was to experience a different relationship with time, and really to balance, like, or discover what it means to have that balance where I'm doing my best work, but I'm also living my best life. So that, the two sides of that, and it's both. It's not one or the other. I hear a lot of people saying like, "Oh, you can have this, and then choose." I'm like, "No, I don't want to choose. I want them both. I want it all."
We hear it
And
all the time, right? You can't do it all.
maybe you can't. I don't know. I can. No, I'm kidding. But the reality is, I focused less on what I really did want to achieve, and the things that I do want to achieve. I want to have a really great work day. So let me define what a really great work day is for myself so that I can meet that goal. I want to have a really great workout. So let me sequence my day so I can always have a really great workout. And then I want to have really great connected time with myself, but also with my family. So it's all the goals, it's all priorities, and then that affects your time management. And when it comes to AI, one of the first things I did, and this is what we're going to do in the workshop, is I created this big mega prompt where you just cut and paste the whole thing into ChatGPT, and it asks a bunch of pre-programmed open-ended questions. This is the same kind of thing that I would do working with leaders like I have for the last 15 years. What kinds of things do you like to do in the morning? What do you have? What would you love to include in your morning that you don't currently do? And then, just what constraints do you have? Do you have to be out the door at a certain time? Do you have a commute? Are there other things that force your decision making into certain time buckets? So, and then it just spits out a prototype morning schedule that's optimized for your goals. And the reason this is so fun is because I've seen time and time again people think, I don't have time to exercise before work. I don't have time to make a
I was
breakfast
just
for my
thinking that.
family. So then it's like, how important is it that you have that style of a morning? And it may not be important, but that's your choice to make. At least you have some evidence to react to. You're still in charge. You're still making decisions about your time, but at least you've disproven the assumption that you had that it wasn't possible.
How do you think AI is going to be affecting the workplace come the future, the near future, and maybe even a little more distant future?
Yeah, so I'll preface this. I don't have a crystal ball, but I've spent a lot of time with futurists who run different scenarios, and so there's a lot of this is ours to play out. But here's what we know: every modern workplace software is getting generative AI. It's in Salesforce, Microsoft Office, Google Workspace, Notion. Everything we're using has AI embedded or will very soon.
Right.
I always listen to the big tech quarterly earnings reports and what people are announcing. And this year, everybody was making sure to announce things about generative AI specifically. Now, as we talked about earlier, AI is a very big field. So there's lots going on that's not large language models, that's not generative AI, but it all plays together. So imagine a near future where every core business process is streamlined with AI, where every organization, whether it's in finances or operations or logistics or customer service, there's some kind of AI component, whether it's on the back end or the front end. So the hope is that this enables us to go from reactive decision making to proactive and personalized decision making. Yesterday, I was speaking with a startup, and he showed me a demonstration of a real-time website experience where, based on the person, and so we all have different personas that we write our websites for.
Right.
So he showed me 3 different personas, and the whole website generated itself in real time based on that person and their unique needs. So imagine that as your virtual digital storefront, as you could deliver a personalized experience and a walkthrough and a tour of your products and services based on the exact person. Or if you had enough data on where your buyers, your customers, your clients, where they get stuck in the process and stop adopting your service. So
Mhm.
for a lot of wearables, this becomes challenging to keep and retaining those users as
Yeah.
the months go on. And so imagine if you could intercept someone before they even know that they're getting disengaged and then re-engage them with delightful, personalized to them content.
You're gonna have me passing out. That's like the old lady in me is like black magic. Like I can't even believe it. Oh my gosh! Like this, I can't even. I'm not even in a place where I imagined something like that, and you're blowing my mind.
Well, look, there is a and here's the thing. I want to be careful because there are business owners who they go and they see my talks and they engage with futuristic technologies and they go, you know what? We want to do the opposite. We are always going to be the retail storefront where you walk in, you see a friendly face, we know you, you have a human relationship. And I think that business strategy is valid too.
Mhm.
But my whole thing is just have dabble in it in low risk ways so you can have that perspective from a lived experience versus a fear-based experience because it's
Yeah.
perfectly like that's the agency we go into business because we want to make our own decisions based on our values, based on our personal sense of integrity. So I don't want to like tell people that they have to, but just consider it, have a lived experience, and then make decisions that are appropriate for your business based on what you learn.
Well, and as AI takes over kind of this like rote, boring, non-energizing work, those human connections, those human skills are going to become invaluable. So it's not that you and and your colleagues are suggesting like let AI take over and just take a vacation for the rest of your life and never work again. Like there's something in us that AI is not going to be able to replicate. There's that human connection that we're not going to get any other way besides that friendly storefront, right?
Oh, yeah. And, as it relates to the human qualities to double down on, we talk about, creativity and connection
Yeah.
and building relationships, but also critical thinking and discernment. Humans have such a
Yes.
finely tuned, like, BS detector that we can tell and we can watch someone speaking and we can tell whether someone's energy and intent does not match the words coming out of their mouths. That's even more important in an era of deep fakes. Earlier
Yes.
this year, an Australian politician wanted to sue OpenAI and ChatGPT because ChatGPT hallucinated that this person was a fraud when really in fact, he was the whistleblower of fraud that happened. So there's just these minor things, and there's real reputation risk. But the strength that you have with your team, with your audience, your investors, and the way that they know your character, these are things you can't delegate or digitize or outsource to technology. These are things that are best handled human to human.
To your point about kind of dabbling, right? Instead of approaching from a fear base, I will say that, when the ball dropped about ChatGPT and everybody was like, let's try it, let's try it, let's try it. Now, my first reaction was like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. This is going to completely replace me. Like, I was in that camp, right? But when I started using it, I started being like, oh, like, I understand it. It's not that black magic. Like, there's science behind it. There's, routine behind it. There's different points to understand, right? And I think that, to your point, that safety concern, which a lot of people have, I was in that boat. I know 100% how you feel, can be alleviated if you start to understand the tools, right? Like, I personally, I can read something and be like, I think ChatGPT might have written that, but I would have never known if I never dabbled.
Yeah, and having that lived experience enables you to see where it can accelerate or streamline what you already do. And I think it enables us to be even more human because even when I'm writing, even if in this case Claude is drafting, I'm still coming up with the talking points.
Right.
I'm refining it and challenging it. No, no, no. go in this direction. So in many ways, I'm behaving the same way that I would if I was working with a human copywriter or a human executive assistant, and I'm guiding them. The difference is that's happening off hours, and now I've freed up that human for higher order work,
Right.
like relationship management, or there's some aspects of project management that I prefer to work with a human for, because I can explain the difference in either the deal or the project or the relationship. And there's elements that I don't yet have that trust outsourcing to AI, but I do have that trust with my human project manager. So, there's it comes back down to having that lived experience so that you're going, okay, I can see where I can use you, just like if I were hiring on human team members. I see where your capabilities can give me an advantage. And I see where there are some limitations where I've got to have that need met someplace else.
Exactly. Exactly. And for the record, for our listeners, AI did not replace my job. I'm still here. And I have actually gotten way better at my job since I've started using AI. I've actually used it to improve. I mean, AI does not do all my writing. I've actually used AI to improve the way I write personally.
It's so fascinating because one of the mega prompts and one of my favorite use cases for ChatGPT is I will assemble an expert panel of different perspectives and have them provide feedback on something that I've done or created. So, in the old days, in the before times, I would call a buddy who is a great performance copywriter, and I'll go, hey, can you take a look at this sales page that I'm about to put up? Or I'm about to send out this email. Can you just take a look through it? And there's this, "Ooh, I feel bad. It's after hours. I don't really want to pay them, but maybe I need to pay them." And, there's this weird like equity thing, social capital thing that
Right.
happens. But now I will just load up, act as a panel composed of the following: a world class leadership coach, a sales negotiation expert, a human centric, empathetic relationship builder, and I'll just like go down the line and I'll instruct it. And then I find that I get feedback through those perspectives. And the fun part is, if you can also do this with like famous people or people who have published a book, because sadly, because of the lack of copyright law, and we're still in this like Wild West
Yeah.
time, a lot of books, a lot of works are already in these large language models. So I can say Tony Robbins, Oprah Winfrey, Brene Brown, Richard Branson, FBI negotiator Chris Voss.
Girl, I'm going to have Taylor Swift reviewing all of my writing from now on.
Look, girlfriend knows how to tell a story.
So I was going to ask you about your favorite hacks, but I think we've actually touched on a lot of them today, and I want to save some meat for the workshop, right? So let's wrap up by just saying, give us maybe 3 to 5 of your favorite AI tools that you're using right now.
Mm. Well, I mentioned Anthropic and Claude. It's great for creative writing, whereas I find that ChatGPT is better for strategic work. So, if you're thinking about, well, do I use this or that? That's how I define it. Um, I do a lot of videos, and I love Descript. It is insane. Like one click to remove all the ums and ahs.
So great.
You can highlight a word and train your voice into the system with I think 5 or 10 minutes of speech, and then create a synthetic voice. So if I literally say the wrong word, I can just highlight it and replace it, and the synthetic voice says that word. So all the days of recording pickups and doing the extra bonus things, or starting the video over because you flubbed one word, those are done. So Descript I love. And then they also have, it's in beta, but it's an eye contact feature where I can be reading my script and my eyes are over here, but in the finished video, my eyes are making contact with the camera. Insane. So Descript I love.
Oh my
And
gosh.
then personal AI, so personal.ai. It's a tool that lets anyone train their own private model. So they are really, transparency and responsibility are like some of their core values. We're really aligned on a values perspective. I've gotten to know the leadership team really well. But if you go to marissa.personal.ai, you can interact with mine. But basically, I have put all my stuff in there. Every interview I do, every workshop, every blog post, everything I've done. And the purpose is, I believe my biggest and best ideas haven't happened yet. And so I want to document all of my knowledge and all of my archival knowledge so that if someone wants to ask me about like basic time management stuff, that may not be an energizing conversation for me today, but they can interact with my AI 24/7. And because I've locked down my schedule so much, I'm just not available for informal chats and stuff like that like I was. So I just like send everyone to my personal AI and ask questions. But the thing is you can train your own AI just on your memories. Like, what's our health insurance number? Who is our health insurance by? And then like have that AI be the one that your family can interact with. What is my kid's teacher's name? The name of the physical therapist, like all of these facts that we recall every day, you can just enter in and have a nice little private model for yourself that leverages AI, but in a safer way because you're not sharing that information with anyone else.
I am so here for it. All right.
Me too.
All right. So let's wrap up, right? I'm not going to keep our
We
listeners
have
here all day. I
to.
know. I could talk to you literally all day. Luckily, you're going to be on with us for another hour for your workshop, which for our listeners, I will go ahead and link for you in the show notes. Marissa, thank you so much for joining us today. I cannot tell you how eye-opening this conversation has been.
My pleasure. And I'm so looking forward to returning for this workshop. We're going to be talking about optimizing your time and energy, eliminating procrastination, and basically everything to work smarter, but not harder.
Thank you, Marissa. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. We release 2 episodes a month, and you're not going to want to miss a single one. You can watch us on YouTube or listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite streaming service. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe today to follow along with us. Thank you. Thank you for listening. The Women's Leadership Today podcast is just one feature of the Women's Leadership Today community. We empower women to advance in their career through targeted professional development learning experiences and resources, such as live and on-demand courses, customized training solutions, up-to-date publications, and more. Visit womensleadershiptoday.com to join our community and take your career to the next level. Together, we can empower women everywhere to lead, innovate, and inspire change.